Please join me in welcoming Clement Virgo.
Thank you. Oh, back at it.
Back at it.
Damon and Karen, come on up, and Maurice and Sharon and Melanie, come on up, and Andy, and Bill Fleming. Bill Fleming is our production designer.
Come on up, Melanie. How you doing? Hi. How you doing? A little bit of a reunion up here.
Yes, yeah.
1995. Y'all look good.
Well, you know, we were young. We were like 21.
That's right. Of course. You know, when I saw this film again, we finished the restoration sometime this summer, and I was able to watch it again. The thing that struck me, first of all, was how current it seemed. Didn't seem like it was 22 years old. This is a film that is dealing with issues of the urban landscape in Toronto that are complicated by sexual identity, complicated by living on Indigenous land and interpreting that, by the migrant cultures. All of this stuff is stuff that we're still talking about. In fact, we're still learning about it right now. And I feel like you were way ahead of your time. How was that?
I don't know. I mean, I remember feeling very displaced at the time, feeling out of sorts. I was an immigrant to Toronto, and I remember being aware of certain issues. At that time, the Oka had just happened, and I remember seeing Anais Bumswin's film the previous year, and that film really had an effect on me. And her film dealt with the Oka crisis. Growing up in Regent Park, I saw a lot of sort of, poverty. I saw some violence, and so it's sort of all those things that I wanted to write about in my first feature just came out, and it seems to be we're kind of having the same cycle again.
Yeah. Let's hope we're getting somewhere. This film was groundbreaking for lots of different reasons, one of which is that a feature film written, directed, and produced by African Canadians had not been made up until that point. Mm-hmm. Can you talk a little bit about putting this group of people together to make this film? Damon, do you want to start with that?
Sure. I'd met Clement and Karen actually through the Canadian Film Centre, and I think this film came directly out of that period of time where the Film Centre was actually really looking to bring new voices to the foreground of Canadian cinema. My background was in the theatre. I had studied acting at the Neighbourhood Playhouse, and I was deep into the Toronto theatre community, which is where I think we found most of our cast. And there just weren't really great opportunities, I think, at that time in film and TV for a black cast. And, in theater, a lot of our cast members were making their own work. Sharon, Melanie did Sisters, which was a really seminal play. I think your sister Maxine was involved in that as well. And we went out and we just shook the trees. Denise Jones, who we thanked in the credits as well, was doing a lot of really good sort of like radio, I remember, and comedy. So we were able to get people from her as well to come out and audition. I mean, we really, there was like a whole vibrant generation of either first or second generation, Caribbean migrants. And I'd say something that I notice that happens a lot is that's a generation that tends to sort of articulate the experience that the second generation that their parents have gone through, and that's certainly true of myself, I think. What's really interesting is a lot of these folks have gone on and started making their own work as well, And also, interesting sort of circling back, Michael Grey Eyes, who played our actor,
right,
our Aboriginal actor, is now starring as Sitting Bull, I think, at this festival.
That's right, in Woman Walks Ahead.
Yeah.
That's right, which just premiered
Anyways,
last night.
but it was the theater community that we were able to round up people.
Yeah, and Michael Gray sort of came in and he said, "Look, I have this idea. What do you think? Is it offensive?" And he's like, "No, let's, I love the idea." And he came up with that whole outfit himself. He came up with a dance, and I sort of let him do what he wanted to do,
Cool.
and very, very grateful for that.
Karen, I wanted to ask you about being a producer on this film as well, and especially about the community that you came out of, because the Black Film and Video Network had been around for, about 6 years or so at the point that this film was made. And there was a community of people who were trying to make films, but a feature film had not been made up until that point. Can you talk about the community that produced you and produced the film?
Sure. The Black Film and Video Network came out of us all getting together one day to get a chair for Jennifer Hodge, remember? And we all thought, this is really cool, us being together. We should keep doing this. So we kept meeting on a monthly basis. Clement and I were on the board there together. And really, what was interesting was that we were clear that production was the key, that it wasn't just festivals and it wasn't just scholarships and it wasn't mentorships, it was actually getting stuff made and done. And one of the challenges that we faced at the time, because Clement was at the Film Center at exactly the same time as Stephen Williams was at the Film Center, and both filmmakers were making feature films at the same time. And one of the things that happened to us was that Stephen was going into telefilm to get funding, and we felt like we couldn't go into telefilm to get funding at the same time because we would cancel each other out. And it wasn't even like we went. We just canceled each other out. We canceled ourselves out of that game right from the beginning because we thought we won't get in. So we then found the Canadian Film Centre as an option, and we because they had the feature film project starting up, and we went there instead. So it was a time of all of us kind of knowing each other and trying to do stuff together. I think one of the things, I had met Bill on Race to Freedom. Right, we were working on because I think part of that project was getting people, as many people of color as we could, onto the production. And so we had people of color in every department, and I'd met Bill at that point. And when we were doing this one, I said, Bill, we're going to Cannes, come and work on this film. And that was the thing that was exciting about this film, is we told everybody, we're going to Cannes. If you want to make a film that's going to Cannes, come and work on this film. And we're going to pay you $400 a week. And they did. We got, and Bill was a top, he was already working on top shows. And our cinematographer, Barry Stone, was also a top cinematographer.
Susan Maggi, our editor.
Susan, we had great people. And that was a thing that, for me, and which continued throughout my career, was working with first-time filmmakers, was really surrounding them with an experienced team that could actually fulfill on their vision. So that was the strategy that I've used, and it seems to have worked.
Mm-hmm. Thank you. Yes.
And we went to Cannes.
It actually worked out. Look, I'm sure there's a lot of questions, comments that you may have, so I want to go to you now. If you've got anything you want to say to any of this incredible group of people up on stage right now. Some of you might have been seeing the film for the first time. Anybody seeing Rude for the very first time? Oh, that's cool. That's cool. That's good. That's good. Okay.
Wow.
So, yeah, any questions, any comments? Yes, please. Can everybody hear the question? Or yeah? Okay, good.
Well, I mean, one of the things that I wanted to do was to kind of create a kind of energy and kind of propulsion throughout. There's a film that I love called The Warriors. I don't know if you guys have seen The Warriors. And The Warriors is, I basically stole the radio DJ from The Warriors and put it into the film. And I love that energy of that film, where we just start and we meet these guys. They're on the subway. They're coming from Coney Island, and they're all we cut to all these different gangs, and they end up in Central Park, and of course it takes place over one night. And so I wanted to capture that same spirit, that same energy that the Warriors had, and really kind of set it to. I wanted it to have a kind of African drum energy to it. You know, I had this idea of just having this drum always kind of going forward in this movement. You know, this Rude's voice, this propulsion energy, this drum, and to try to make a very tight 90-minute film, and to kind of keep that energy up. I mean, you know, and because it was 3 stories, I knew I had to keep it moving as quickly as I could.
Thank you. Yes, right here.
Just the song, Further Along. I heard really recently, in the last 2 years. Is it you who chose it? And what's the connection?
It's a group out of Halifax. What's
For the moment.
For the Moment? There's a group out of Halifax called For the Moment. It's a black women's group. And that song really struck me, and I really liked that song so much that I had to use it for the end credits.
There's also the voices of Molly Johnson and who else? Jackie Richardson
And
Clifton Joseph.
Jimi Hendrix,
Yeah.
Jimmy Cliff. I mean,
Yeah.
what was amazing is when you're making a film that we did this, I think it was like just over $350,000 with cash, and that was on 35mm film. You can go to a music company and say, "We have no money, please." You know, like
Right, Jimi Hendrix is
you can write to the foundation for Jimi Hendrix for like 6 months and have a dialogue with them. But that's really, you know, how we were able to get that, because we literally had no money for music. And we had enough time between getting accepted to Cannes and being able to tell people that we were accepted to Cannes, and therefore we really needed their music. So it was pretty amazing. It doesn't happen often.
Yes.
Thank you. I've seen this work before, and I just wanted to ask, you made a lot of really, really bold choices, and I don't even know if there was a film sort of made that way since then also, but that's what I'm thinking about. And even a lot of the actors, I mean, there's just so many stuff about chemistry, and I wondered, because you had to first convince the board to turn you down, and then you actually convinced someone else who overrode the board,
Yeah.
did you stick to a lot of those choices that you originally thought of?
We were supposed to rewrite it.
We actually went beyond those choices in some ways. I think we knew that, you know, the motto that we always use is, how do you make something stand out in a crowded marketplace? And I think boldness is like, you know, one really good way to do that. And with the first film, you know, I have a feeling watching the film tonight after, I think it's been about 11 years for me, we threw a lot at the screen, you know, but a lot of it really still sticks well. So anyways.
Yeah.
But also, you guys were really brave, because remember, it was Rude Boy,
Yes, sir.
Yes.
and so it was going to be a male lead.
Right.
And then all of us actors were like, oh, there's a movie going on, Rude Boy. And then it's like, we think the lead might be female. And we're like, what? But that was bold to have a black female protagonist. Like, that was a big thing.
Yeah.
And to speak that way, all of that.
And
Yeah.
that's because you blew us away.
Thank you. David.
Yeah, yeah, because I think, you know, like originally the film was called Rude Boy, which is a kind of Jamaican term, you know. And then, you know, after thinking about it, it just felt, I don't know, one day I think I came to you and said, it should be a female voice.
Yeah, and it made total sense because of, you know, I think you hear the words differently.
Yes,
That come
and
out
that's
of the
what it
mouth
was.
of that character coming
Yeah.
from a woman.
Yeah, yeah, that's right. Because I heard it from a male voice, and I thought it didn't feel right to me. And so, you know,
We
when
were in my dining room and you had me read it.
that's right, that's right, that's right.
The stakes just got higher, right? 'Cause, you know, for a guy to be talking like that. For a guy to be talking like that was no big thing, but suddenly for a woman to be saying those very sexual things, Sharon.
I didn't remember there was so much sex.
And that tongue of yours.
I know, right? I just remember rehearsing it.
Yeah.
And my mom going, oh, what kind of film is this? You know what I mean? Yeah.
Actually, can we hear from the actors a little bit about what it was like to make the film? Melanie, Sharon, Andy, Maurice, to a little bit about your experience of working with Clement in this very, as you say, bold story.
Well, I'll say this, that all of us are still, like, I still feel like I can pick up the phone and call anybody So that's huge. Like, that's a big, big deal. And I know people always say that, but that's actually true. And I think that Clement mentioned us going to the hairdresser and him holding my hand. And I won't lie, I was scared to do that. But what I also remember is asking Clement a lot about the film. And, you know, approaching it as an actor, you only see your part, and you're sort of going. And then he started to talk about the influence of Kieslowski and, like, all these European influences. And I was like, this guy's deep. I better deliver. I better seriously deliver. But I remember that was so inspiring as an actor and as an artist to hear, I don't know, this world get bigger and bigger and bigger, and how inspired you were by other filmmakers. And I don't know, everyone was so committed to this film. Everyone was so committed. I also want to say there was a lot of energy, because remember how cold we were in the warehouse? We walked into this warehouse, and it was this big, beautiful warehouse, and it was freezing, but it was also, I don't know, there was an instant community that happened.
Yeah. And we shot it right in Regent Park. Like, our studio was a warehouse right in Regent Park. Those time-lapse shots were from the top of a 6-story CBC costume warehouse that was, you know...
Now a condo?
Now condo, yeah. Beautiful, actually.
Andy?
$500 for the 2 months that we were in.
And, you know, we didn't have one theft or one break-in the entire time. And we shot, I think, 5 weeks?
20-something days.
24 days or something like that, yeah. You know,
There was a lion there.
it was the lion, yeah. We had the lion on all the time.
I would just remember being so inspired by the whole thing happening, like a feature film, what you mentioned before, Cameron, a feature film being done by black folks. So just that thing was just really like, wow, I'm just so happy it's happening. And then I had just come out of theater school, and I got the role. And so I felt, I'm on the right path. This is what's supposed to happen, right? Get out of theater school and get a role in a feature film. And go to Cannes, you know? So this is the way it should be, you know? 22 years later, a little more ups and downs, you know? But I just remember just really being inspired by it. And as Sharon said, we all see each other, we all talk to each other, you know? And the community that was built from that film, if I looked there, I lived with that person. I did another show with that person. Like, that, just that whole, you know, it felt like the beginning of something beautiful. And I think it proved out to be that way.
Yeah, I remember long before the film was actually made, I got an invite up to the Film Center to read Rude Boy. And I think before Sharon was Rude Boy, I read the part of Rude Boy, and you know, I mean, everything you say about the transfer of that from male to female, it's so right on, and the words just have a different resonance altogether, and there's a certain power to that, and so after that, I was offered the role of general, and I said, well.
And as I recall, you declined the role because you were going to do a play.
Oh.
And I had to I remember having a conversation and saying, this is going to last forever. A play is going to come and go, and this will be on there forever. This performance will be, and there it is, right?
I listened.
Yeah, you did.
You always listen to Karen.
Mm-hmm. I mean, one thing I will say is that I loved the entire script, but the life and the sort of the whole sort of construction of this character, the general, was so fascinating to me at the time that it wasn't a story about a man released from prison going back and I mean, there was a whole quality, sort of there was a new dimension to this character whose skin color was the way it was, and that I haven't seen it. I'd never seen a character like that up until that particular point, and his struggle. It became so much more dimensional for me because I was dealing with the artistic side of it, and the beautiful relationship with his child, and working with this woman was just
Melanie, can you talk a little bit about your experience?
Yeah,
on the
no,
film?
I'm like just listening, going, oh, so great. No, I remember being terrified because it was one of the first films that I was doing, and I remember walking onto set the first day and with Maurice and Clark and this wonderful man, and just going, okay. I'm in good hands, and Miss Karen and Damon, and it felt like such a responsibility because we were, the first African Canadian film, with African Canadian actors, but we were able to just be in the moment and do the work because we were taken care of, and it was a wonderful first experience to have, and going forward is kind of like one that I keep as like in my memory as a beautiful thing. So I'm really grateful to watch it and going, oh my God, I'm so young. It's like, can we do it again? Can we do it again? I remember the scene with Clark. Right. Because Clark mistakenly said to this new actor, just go for it. Just don't hold back. Just really hit me. So I was like, okay. So there was a moment when he has me down on the couch and I wailed him and he stops. It's because I really wailed him. I hit him so hard that he saw stars for a second. So he had to and then he went back into the scene. And I remember going, I'm so sorry, at the end of it. So I still remember that.
If you don't already know, Melanie Nichols-King is in a film at this year's festival that is called Mary Goes Round. She's terrific in it. Still doing great work, still killing it. So make sure you see that one as well. We are a little bit short on time, so if you've got one or two other questions. Anyone? Yes, right there. Rude 2.
No.
The gentrification. Rude 2, the gentrification.
Regent Park is gone.
I'd love to hear from Bill around how you felt when you watched it this time.
Sure. I think I was actually looking at it, and it was, it's beautifully, digitally restored and stuff now. But I actually think it works better now than it did. And in a strange way, there was just a couple of days ago, there was a bit of a discussion, and Christopher Hume from the architectural was asking some designers, films have to be realistic. They have to be realistic. And this is the world is much more theatrical. It's a theatrical world. You don't, in film, get a lot of opportunity to create worlds that, move a little bit away from realism. And yet, in creating the theatrical world, it defines, that world that's in the film is as big a character as anybody else in the film. And it's a character that informs all of the characters in the film. It's their world. And and I think it's an ethereal space. So I think it was, it's a really, I think it works in that level. It just it allows the sort of poetry to rise, and it is. It comes from the character of a very poetic narrative set against. That these stories take place against, and so it's a poetic world, a metaphor world, and not just if we'd just gone out and shot in someone's kitchen and
it would have been a totally different film.
And I don't think it would have the lasting impact. I don't think it would have. It wouldn't have been like you were saying. It wouldn't have gone that. It wouldn't have been bold.
Yeah.
So I think it still is bold.
Could not agree more. Any final words, Clement? You're the auteur here.
Thank you to TIFF. Thank you to Technicolor for and to the Cinematheque for taking our film and making it more beautiful. So thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you, Clement. Thank you to all of you. One last question for you. Raise your hands again if this was your first time seeing the film. Wow, that's unbelievable. Wow. How many of you have a dream to make films of your own? All right, so you've seen what can be done. Go out and do it. Thank you.
Thank you.